Hello and good morning from my side. My name is Abel, and I'm one of the pastors here at Mosaic. I have the honor to, because Mosaic has two locations, one in Berlin and one in Potsdam, and I have the privilege to take care to pastor our location in Potsdam. That's why some of you were asking me today, like, Abel, what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be in, like, over there instead of here? It's all good. Let me be here, man. I missed you. We're good. Let me be here. Thank you. There will be a moment where I'll be there, but today I'm here. So it's good. I want to start with an opening question. On the screen, you will see 3 TV shows. I hope you have it. 3 TV shows. There you go. What do these 3 TV shows have in common? Beside all being white, just putting it out there. But what do they have in common? There's one question in this TV show that they have all in common. The question, will they or won't they? Will they or won't they? In these TV shows, there's a man and a woman, and it is very obvious to everyone that they are supposed to come together. They are supposed to love each other. They are supposed to be in a relationship, but it is dragged out through the whole TV show that they're actually coming together. Well, let me give you an example. Ted and Robin in How I Met Your Mother. We laughed with this TV show. We were hoping, we were suffering. For 9 seasons, we were waiting for will they or won't they? And the end is just disappointing. I don't know if you have watched How I Met Your Mother. How I Met Your Mother is about a TV show where Ted, the main character, is telling his 2 kids how he met their mom. And then we are waiting for 9 seasons, and at some point, it's very disappointing. And I will spoil it to you because this TV show is ended 2014. So if you are here, you're like, oh my God, no. 2014, guys. So at the end, like season 8, I think, they introduced the mom, and then the makers of the TV show killed the mom so that Ted and Robin come together. Just poor writing. It's just very, come on, like, try something. That is just poor. But there are other examples of this, won't they, will they or won't they, like Pam and Jim in The Office, Ross and Rachel in Friends. And we were hoping, we were suffering. Some of you even paused and started praying. Lord, make them come together. And I think there's on the inside, we want to see a happy end. We want to see that somehow these people who belong together, they come to the end and we have this happy end. And I think that there is a desire in us to hope for a love story that ends happily and great. I believe that God predestined us also for a love story that is written in our hearts. It's okay, man. Most of them are watching on their phones. It's okay. It's a great TV show. We are in the middle of a preaching series that is called Summer in the Psalms, not Summer in the Streets. But there's so many memes in my head right now. This summer, the streets are calling. No. So last week, Toby started with the first episode of the Summer in the Psalms, and where we are watching in each sermon, we are having a look on one psalm out of this beautiful collection of poetry, songs with a lot of wisdom. And today's psalm reads itself like a love song in a love story. It's like a love song of 2 people who belong to each other. The difference is it's not written by a fictional character, but it is written from David to God, which means we can also learn something from our relationship to God. Psalm 139 is a poetic masterpiece written by King David. And we're going to read it in a few minutes, but I just want to give you a quick preview of what David is doing. David is thinking about an existential question. What does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be a human being? And as he thinks about this question, he does something that we in our time we have unlearned. We usually, when we want to answer the question, what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be me? We look on the inside. How do I feel? What did I do? How do I bring benefit to others? Am I special? Am I valuable? We look on the inside. David does something different. He starts with the attributes of God, and attributes that only God has. And then from these attributes, he looks on himself. From the nature of God, he goes further and he looks on himself. And he understands more about himself and what it means to be a human being. And there is wisdom in this approach. There's a lot of wisdom in this approach because according to the Bible, to be a human is not defined by what you do or how you feel, but being human is defined how you relate to God. This is the story of the Bible from the first page on. God created human beings to relate to them, to have community, fellowship with them, to be in friendship with them, to be in an intimate friendship. So what it means to be human is defined by how we relate to God, or even shorter, because God is, I am. Because God is, I am. Okay? You can just try to keep this sentence in your head while we're going through the sermon. Because God is, I am. Psalm 139 describes 3 attributes of God, and we're going to discover what they say about God and what they also say about us. We're going to read Psalm 139, not all of it, verse 1 to 18. You can read it on your screen or on your sermon sheets. Of David a psalm. You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise, you perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going and my laying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, Lord, you know it completely. You go before me and behind me, and you lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful to me, too lofty for me to attain. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you're there. If I make my bed in the depth, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settled on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me, your right hand will hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me, the light become night around me, even the darkness will not be dark to you. The night will shine like the day, for darkness is as light to you. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. How precious to me are your thoughts, God. How vast is the sum of them. Were I to count them, they would outnumber the grains of the sand. When I awake, I am still with you. Amen. The first thing David understands about himself starts with God knowing something about David and everyone else on this earth. Because God is all-knowing. Verse 1, it says, you have searched me, Lord, and you know me. This is not just information. This is not just God knows your name and your social security number. David describes that God knows him on the inside and on the outside. He says, you know me when I sit, when I stand, when I walk, when I lay down. You may notice that this is actually every possible movement that you can do. Whatever you do, you have to either sit, walk, lay down, or, what was the last one? Stand. So whatever you do, God knows it. Whatever you do, God knows it. Think about it. Over 8 billion people on this earth. And God knows every thought and every movement. Every mind for God is as open as a book. It doesn't matter if it's good, neutral, or bad. God knows it. You know how we sometimes hope that no one can see what we are thinking in our head. In my case, my face is just speaking very fast before I can say my thought. But even before my face sells me out, God knows what I'm thinking. You know, we sometimes come together in a Bible group or in a small group, and we discuss over the Bible. And there's one guy, he doesn't quote the Bible. He just says something like, you know, it says in Galatians 5, so beautiful. And you nod, but you have no idea what Galatians 5 says. God knew that you have no idea. This week, my almost 3-year-old son, he did everything but to follow my instructions when I wanted to get him to bed. And I was tired, frustrated, and I had so many thoughts in my head what I could do to him. And God knew every thought in my head. And the first impression is, this doesn't sound like good news. This sounds terrifying. Because most of us, we want to be known, but not fully known. We want to be known on our good sides, you know, our victories, our strength, our accomplishments. These are the parts we want people to see. But the other side, our false motives, our fears, our insecurities, our lustful thoughts, they're supposed to be hidden in a closet. Just close it. No one is supposed to see that. So the question is, if God knows everything about David, even the worst thoughts in his head, why is that a reason? Why is the all-knowing God a reason for David to worship him? Why does he find comfort in the all-knowing God? I want to try to explain it like this. I grew up in a neighborhood with a lot of immigrants. So we had blacks, we had Arabs, Turks, Russians, everything. And where I grew up, there were also a lot of tough guys, less focused on school, more focused on doing stupid stuff. Some of them even doing crime and I don't know what. And I remember because some of them, they would come up to me and be like, Abel, you have to go to school, it's very important. I'm like, bro, why don't you go to school? It would also help you with some stuff, but it's fine. And so, and most of my immigrant friends were at this part, and then I had most of my German friends in school. And what was funny to me is that my German friends, they would say about my immigrant friends, boy, man, they're kind of, I bet you have to be careful, man, they're dangerous. They're like, they're a threat to people, man, they're dangerous. And I was like, I understand what you mean, but they don't seem like a threat to me. I'm good with them. I don't know about you, but I'm good. I'm not afraid of them because we have a relationship. We're good. Some of them, they would even protect me if someone would do something bad to me. So we are in a good relationship, and what seemed as a threat to others, to me, is liberating, is protection, is good. So what makes the difference between someone being threatening or liberating is relationship, friendship. I think it makes a difference when we think about God being all-knowing. If God is all-knowing, but he's against us, that's the worst thing. That's threatening. But if God is all-knowing and he is for us, he is for me, that's the most liberating thing there is. Think about the creation story, the first pages of the Bible, Genesis 1. God creates Adam and Eve and he says to them, I know you, you know me, you have everything you need, every desire, I will fulfill it. There's nothing that you lack. And all they know is perfect harmony, perfect relationship with God. They know that God is good and there's nothing he would hold back. That's why it says that they were naked and unashamed. Why? Because they knew to be fully known by God is not a threat, but it is friendship, it's intimacy. It only became a threat after they did not trust that God had their best intentions for them. It only became a threat when they believed the lie of the evil one who said, God is against you. God is holding back. And after the relationship broke, They hid and they felt ashamed. That's the reason some of us, we read these verses in Psalm 139 and we think, God knows too much. I don't like that God knows everything about me because there's stuff I need to hide. And we fear that God might be against us. And here comes David, who also recognizes in verse 6 that God knows everything about me that goes beyond my head. That's too high for me. I cannot comprehend it. But he also understands something that we often forget. We are afraid that God knows everything about us and will use this information to crush us. But David has a much bigger fear. His fear is that out of shame, he will distance himself from the all-knowing God who already knows everything about him. So that's why, for David, that's the reason to worship God. This idea, this thought is comforting for him because he knows the all-knowing God, the God who fully knows me, he's for me. The God who knows everything, he knows me and he's for me. God knows every fear, every insecurity, every failure, and he still draws near. He still listens, and he still loves. The challenge for us in Psalm 139, or the question, is not, does God know me? Because the answer is clearly yes. But the challenge for us is, will I stop hiding from the God who already knows everything? Will I stop hiding from the God who already knows everything about me? And once we stop hiding, we discover something else about God. And that's the second thing, that he is ever present. Verse 5 and 7, it says, you go before me and behind me, and you lay your hand upon me. Verse 7, where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? Now David describes God's omnipresence. And you might think, oh no, it gets worse. It gets worse because God is not just all-knowing, but now he's also ever present. He's everywhere. And you might think, I cannot escape him. Verses 8 and 9, he used this imagery to describe how God is absolutely everywhere. If I go up to the mountains, to the heavens, he's there. If I go down to the realm of dead, he's also there. If I go to the deepest east where the sun rises and I will try to flee with the speed of the sunbeam to the west, he's also there. Vertically, he's there. Horizontally, he's there. And again, you might think, but that's not good news either. That's not good. That's, again, threatening. God, give me some space. What is your problem? Let me breathe. I just need some me time. And I think two images help us to understand what David discovers. It's either they make it worse, or it makes us understand. In verse 5, it says, your hand is upon me. And in the Bible, the hand usually stands for God's authority, God's reign, God's power, but also for God's judgment. Verse 7, it says, where can I flee from your presence? And the Hebrew word for presence can also be translated as the face of God. So it means his face is everywhere. And to stand in front of the face of God is also a picture, a terminology of judgment. And it sounds like God is encircling David. Like, you cannot flee from me. Wherever you go, ha, I got you. Wherever you're trying to go, ha, this is my house. You're not going anywhere. But if this is true that God is encircling David, if it's true that his face is everywhere, just waiting for him to mess up, if his hand is always there, waiting for him to mess up, then we would assume or expect that David would say something like, wherever I try to go, your hand will catch me. Your hand will judge me. Your hand will destroy me, or your hand will crush me. But that's not what David says. David says in verse 9, wherever I go, even there your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. Why is this his conclusion? Again, David understands something about God that we often miss. And especially because we have been told, we have been trained to think freedom is found outside of the authority of God. In the absence of authority, There's where you find freedom. Let me do my own thing. I don't need anyone to tell me what to do, what not to do. Freedom is outside of the authority of God. That's our mantra. To us, God's face is like a CCTV, just observing us and waiting for us to fail. For us, God's hand is like a clenched fist, just waiting to crush us. That's why we ask, how can I get out of here? How can I escape from the presence of God? How can I escape from his face and his hand, his judgment? How can I escape? But to David, the face of God is not a CCTV. The face of God is friendship, relationship, closeness. That's why he says in Psalm 27, Lord, your face I want to seek. Do not hide your face from me. I want to seek your face. For David, God's hand is not clenched in a fist, but it's a guiding hand. It means guidance. It means protection. It means security. That's why he says in Psalm 23, you, God, you are like a shepherd, and your hand guides me to green pastures. Your hand guides me to still waters. We believe the same lie as Adam and Eve did in the garden. We believe that freedom is found outside of God's authority, power, and reign. But David understands freedom is found under the authority of God. It would be so foolish for me to run away from God. Here's the irony. Here's what's very ironic about this, because most of us, we spend our lives trying to escape from the face of God, from the hand of God, from his approval, his judgment. We try to escape from it, and at the same time, we are constantly on trial because we always seek for the approval and judgment of other people. Constantly. Some of you, as you entered this church and you sat down, you were wondering, am I well dressed enough to be here? Do I fit in? Am I good enough? Am I successful enough? Am I spiritually good enough to be here with the others? Because they look good and they pray all the time. Can I actually be here? And here's the problem, that what people say and think about us, their judgment has more power over us than what God thinks about us. Here's what Paul says in the New Testament in the 1 Corinthians. I care very little if I'm judged by you or by any human court. Indeed, I do not even judge myself. My conscience is clear, but that does not make me innocent. It is the Lord who judges me. It is the Lord who judges me. That's either terrifying if you don't know God, or again, it's liberating because you know God. For people like David and Paul, this is liberating because the all-knowing God is the God who knows me completely. He knows everything about me. And also that he is ever present, which means he holds me all the time. My life is in his hand. My whole existence is in his hand. Therefore, the only approval, the only verdict that matters to me is not the crowd, is not social media, it's not even my own verdict about myself. But the only verdict that matters, the only judgment that matters is there from God. So that's why David knows the hand of God upon me is not a clenched fist. It's the hand of a shepherd who guides me, who leads me. The God who is ever present. He's not hunting me down, but he leads me to green pastures and still waters. So because God is all-knowing, David knows that he's fully known. Because God is ever present, David is always held. So for David's third discovery, David looks at God's creative work. He looks at what God has created. Verse 13 and 14, he says, "For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are beautiful." Your works are beautiful. It's interesting that David doesn't say, you have manufactured me, you have put me together like a Lego box or something. He says, he used the word to knit, to weave something together. This is an artist. This is not like a production line. This is not mass fabric where everything looks the same. This is the work of an artist who goes very carefully. He goes string after string. He takes his time. And David looks back on his life and he says, I'm not a product of coincidence. I'm not a product of coincidence. I wasn't manufactured, but I was knit together. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. So why is that important to us? Because as people, we usually tend to define our value by what we do. I did something, therefore I am. What do I bring to the table? What can I do? How am I beneficial to other people? What did I achieve? And as we continue this thought, we also put the same measurement on other people. Because we say, they only have value if they do something for me. Are they useful to me? Do they support me? Are they appealing to my eye? Do they satisfy me? Do they agree with me? And at the end, people only become functions. They become objects for our selfish needs. David, he doesn't look at his life, he doesn't look at his value on the inside. He looks to the one who created him. He looks to the one who created him and says, you have knit me together like an artist. I am wonderfully made. And here's a little tension. Because if we're honest, there's also the other side. If people ask me, what is the most beautiful thing about Berlin? I say, man, the people. What is the worst thing about Berlin? The people. It's the same with church. The most beautiful thing in church is people. Most horrifying thing in church? The people. But people are amazing. People are wonderful. I watched this video a few months ago where Jacob Collier, some of you know him as an artist, where he was spontaneously doing something where he was given instructions to the orchestra, like you play a D flat and you do a staccato or whatever, I don't know. And they were just starting to play, and then he also got the crowd inside and were like, you sing this, and it was a beautiful piece of music. And I remember I was going to my wife with my phone, was like, look what wonderful, well, look how beautiful people are, they can do such wonderful things. I almost started crying because it was so beautiful, because people are able of beautiful things. Think about it. Music, art, love, creativity, empathy. People are capable of beautiful things. But also, people are capable of horrifying things. Just look at the news. War, terrorism, racism, exploitation, abuse, betrayal. That's also reality. So what is it? Are people wonderful and amazing, or are they horrifying? What is it? And the Bible says they're both. They are both. The Bible says in Genesis 1, God created man, and he created man, and he says, man, you are wonderful. You are made in my image. You reflect me. You are my masterpiece. Everything I've created was good. But you are good. Very good. Very good. Very, very good. But then also Genesis 3, where humans depart from God, where they are estranged from God, where they are far from God because they fall in sin. And here, David reminds us of something we tend to forget. Before any person does good or evil, God already ordained this person is fearfully and wonderfully made. Done. Before that person did right or wrong, voted left or right, before that person became a homeless person, before that person disappointed and hurt you, before any of that, God declared, fearfully, wonderfully made. Done. The politician or influencer you call stupid, the older lady in your neighborhood who calls you racist names, the girl on your screen that you objectify, the ex-boyfriend you call a narcissist because he cheated on you. Before they did any of that, God declared, fearfully and wonderfully made. Done. And there's something I want to say very clearly. I'm not saying this is justifying evil, because God doesn't just justify evil and just says, okay, they're wonderfully made so they can do whatever. No, because remember, God's face is everywhere. God's face, and there's a psalm that says, God's face is against those who do evil. And his hand, his righteous hand, will judge. But we don't have the right to dehumanize human beings. We don't have the right to demonize human beings. We don't have the right to deny someone's God-given dignity. Not our place. Imagine what witness, what light we would be in the city if we would actually practicing that, if we would believe that and do so. And here's the problem. Imagine before you comment something on your social media, before you start arguing with someone, before you post that very angry post, before you judge someone, you take a step back, you breathe, and remember this person is fearfully and wonderfully made, created in the image of God. Okay, I messed up my notes. I have to get my German ones, I'm sorry. But here's also the reality that we all failed. We all looked at people not in the way that God looks on people. We all had a moment where we put a label on a person and just said, you are just this. We all had this moment where we dehumanized a person for our benefit. We all had this, that we thought things about a person, that we said something or we did something that dehumanized a person. And maybe you carry regret because you realize, I did that. And it hurts me. And my conscience hurts me. If that's you, I want to tell you something very clearly. Your value is not defined by the worst thing you have done. Your value is not defined by the worst thing you have done. Psalm 139 doesn't just speak about any person, it speaks about every person. Every person is fearfully and wonderfully made, even the person that messed up. So you're not your mistake. You're not your biggest failure. You are not your worst moment. You are not what you did to someone, what someone did to you. You are a person created in the beautiful image of God. And therefore, you're valuable. And because of Jesus, there's forgiveness. Because of Jesus, there's grace. Because of Jesus, there's the possibility to a new beginning. Because the same God who knit you together in your mother's womb, the same God who always holds you, The same God who knows you completely is also the one who welcomes sinners and restores broken people. So whatever you regret, please don't hear condemnation. Please don't hear condemnation, but hear an invitation. Come to God. Come to the all-knowing God who knows your whole story, and let him say to you, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. David understood all these beautiful things about God, all these tremendous things about God, and he also therefore understands a lot about himself. But still, David was not a perfect person. David was not a perfect person. He had all this truth and all this wisdom, and he's sharing this with us. But he lied, he betrayed, he murdered. But centuries later, decades later, there's a better David. There's his offspring, the son of David, a better David, Jesus Christ. And Jesus doesn't just show us how God is, but he also shows us what it means to be fully human. He gives us a beautiful example of what it means to be fully human. Before Jesus did any miracle, before he preached any sermon, before he could tell people who he is, there's the voice from heaven, the voice of the Father who says, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am pleased." Jesus did nothing yet, but he was fully known. When Jesus was in the desert and he was tempted by the devil, and the devil told him, "You can have everything. You can have all the power or the money, everything. I can give it to you. Only bow to me." And Jesus says, the only approval, the only verdict that matters to me is the verdict of my Father. And now, even though Jesus was eternal, he was the eternal God, he left eternity. He became a human being. He embraced being a human being because he had a mission to bring us back in the perfect love story with the Father. Because I tell you, the greatest love story is not the story of Ted and Robin in How I Met Your Mother. The greatest love story is also not Ross and Rachel and Friends. But the greatest love story is a God who goes after humankind, who goes after mankind. And in Jesus Christ, he says, you don't have to hide anymore. You don't have to hide anymore. Because I am all-knowing, you are fully known. Because I am ever present, you are always held in my hand. And because I am your creator, you are wonderfully made. God says, because I am, you are. Let's stand together and we will worship. And the song that we will sing is basically, it covers that pretty well. The idea of because God is, I am. Because we will sing about what God has done, but how God sees us, how he loves us, and what it calls us to do. At the cross, there's a team that will pray for you. And if especially the part of regret was speaking to you, and you are thinking about stuff that happened to you or that you did or that you said, and please don't carry this weight by yourself. Go to the cross and let someone pray for you. Amen.